But if you can go create intentional communities that are intentionally designed to have all of the best of these modalities, therefore giving, let's say, 1,000 square acres, 10,000 souls that live there permanently, but then also thousands that will come in for events and things and whatever, concerts and festivals and recreation purposes. Well, guess what? They all get the great food and drink while they're there, while they're visiting. And all the people that live there get it all day, every day. All the best. You want therapy? You can walk up to the clinic that's right there. They know your name. You don't have to fill out any insurance or anything like that. You're already in a system. It's like giving people almost like a social health care, but built into a private, kind of thing. Taking capitalism and socialism and having a little baby with that.
We're working with the Japanese, New Zealand, like countries that are also realizing the imploding infrastructures that are happening, right?
Yeah.
So we have clean energy technology way beyond wind and solar that is mind-boggling. And spending a life on purpose to know that those works are going to help people, not just absolutely support yourself, but is literally going to support other people with a clean way of living and a purposeful way of living. I think we can talk about a lot of stuff, which is kind of funny when my team is like, I'm like,
no.
They're
but
always trying to get.
I get it. I totally understand. There was a part of me that I was like, I don't know. Because when I went and did a lot of podcasts a couple years ago, year and a half ago, that was specifically to go promote my book that I wrote, Radical Love, and that was all about love, and so that's what I would go and talk about. And by the way, we can talk about that as well, because I have lots of thoughts on that, and how ultimately, and this, it's all connected. Yeah, it's all so holistic. What we're putting in our bodies, what we're not putting in our bodies, how we are treating ourselves, how we're treating others, how others are treating us, what are our environmental traumas, what are our communal traumas, like all of these things are all either building or tearing down the vessel that we are, And so because all those things are interconnected, if you have eyes to see and ears to hear, you go down those rabbit trails and you're like, oh, wow, yeah, and this thing and that thing. And, isn't it interesting that this thing does this thing that affects this thing over here? And you're like, wow, this is crazy. So
it's fascinating.
Yeah, so we can talk about whatever.
No, there's a lot there. And obviously you're very astute on a lot of things that I think I care about as well. And so anyway, just to finish that story. So Zach, we had this great dinner, but on the side, this superfood hunting thing, people had been like, there's been some reporters and things like that over the years, and they're like, someone said, you should do a show. And every time I'd kind of go into production, I'm like, that's a lot of heavy lifting. And then ultimately they were always like, you got to get a celebrity. And I was kind of like, nah, like I'm not like, I don't need to do a show. Yeah, I want to do it from the truth and the authentic. So anyway, I had kind of my life had opened up a lot more, seeing stuff in the world, going, I'm in the middle of Africa, India, people don't have clean water, 2 billion people in the world don't have access to clean water. What the fuck? How is this possible now, right? Yeah. And hell, I was sitting under a fucking mango tree with Obama's grandmother in Kenya, like having a conversation about this very thing.
Wow.
And like, this kind of stuff. So I kind of sketched out, like, what would I want to do that would really get me excited about showing the world something? And it was environmental, it was health, it was superfood hunting, it was all of these. So I had sketched a show. And just kind of off the cuff, wasn't pitching anything. Zach said, what else are you doing? I have this idea for a show. And all of a sudden, he just like a heat seeker.
Yeah.
And little did I know he had a deal already baked at Netflix, but it was called Spooning with Zach.
Yeah.
And it was like another celebrity and him like eating around the world somewhere, but it was stupid, and he didn't want to do it. So when he really loved that idea, he walked that in, and because we already had the show paid for, Netflix didn't know I existed until we gave them the show, season 1.
Wait, since it was already paid for through his deal at Netflix?
Yeah. So Netflix also didn't pay for that deal. They agreed to
distribute
be the distributor. Right. Yeah. And so because we had all these partnerships with TripAdvisor,
Visa,
it was a great way to fund it and then subtly do this integration that no one really even disrupted the show at all.
Yeah.
And
that's great.
So we had all this paid for. And so So Netflix was like, who is this?
Yeah.
But the show was so cool
Yeah.
that it kind of, hit something and became interesting. So from that perspective, I fell in love with kind of this aspect of film and
Yeah. Well, and media and how media can serve the message.
100%.
And how also, if we're being really honest, and I think unfortunately a lot of people don't want to be fully honest with themselves or with the situation that we're looking at currently in the world, but let's say specifically in this country. It's like everyone on some level believes, oh yeah, we get programmed, we the media and stuff. But I don't think most people are even really cognizant of the level of the programming that goes on. Like they really don't. And in fact, not to start, hard in the paint, but why not? Here we are. But it's like, in the same way that you were able to go and leverage the media and content in order to tell stories that are uplifting, that are hope-filled, that are like informative, that are like, hey, yeah, there's a lot of bad things going on in the world, and there's a lot of ways that we have lost touch with this incredible vessel that we have and this earth that our vessel interacts in. Yeah. So let's go find out. Let's go dig into that. Let's go be these archaeologists, scientists, to, go and remember what we have lost, because we've forgotten so much. And I don't think all of that's by accident. I think a lot of that's intentional. And that ties directly into this concept, which is, if we don't think that our media, like the mass media, the mainstream media that people like to, that terminology, but is a terminology that works because that is the truth. That is there is mainstream media, and then there is, offshoot independent media.
Right.
There is. And if we think for a second that the mainstream media isn't captured by the large industrial agendas and even governmental agendas, then we're lying to ourselves. We are genuinely lying to ourselves. In fact, one of the things that really blew my mind, I heard it a little while ago. It was something I was already kind of, let's say, privy to or believed was probably happening, but I didn't even really think about the mechanism of it. And that is that, what is it? Something ridiculous. It's like 80% of the advertisement dollars on the mainstream media, particularly news networks and whatnot, but even beyond news, is pharmaceutical ads.
Right.
Okay. Now, not even getting into, let's say, breaking down these pharmaceutical companies and the pharmaceutical industry, which we'll probably get into next. But isn't it interesting that 80% of all those ads, like it used to be a smorgasbord of so many different things that we used to see advertised on television. And yet now it's insane the amount of, little infomercials basically of people just living their best life, and with little jingles behind it. And here's a new drug for the thing you didn't even know you had,
But now that we described it, you think you have
exactly, exactly. Because they know how to tap into us and create that little fear in us, right? But the thing I just learned pretty definitively recently, and it's like, duh, yeah, of course, no brainer. The pharmaceutical companies, they don't even draw or drive that many sales from the ads that they run. They run the ads so that they can be essentially unimpeachable to the mainstream media. If the mainstream media really was from a news journalistic standpoint, if they were really holding everyone to account, which is what they should be doing, holding our government accountable, holding our industries accountable, they used to do that. That used to be journalism. Yeah. But then, of course, once you're paying for all of the journalists, even the best ones are kind of like, I don't want to, I can't bite the hand that feeds us.
Right.
We get to do our job and be journalists because, in large part, because Pfizer and Moderna and everybody else are paying the bills. So we might have some suspicions about maybe this, that, or the other, but let's not get, let's keep those under wraps. They're saying everything's cool. We should also take them at their word. They're humans, they're certainly there's nothing nefarious going on, maybe some mistakes, but I think all of these things, this kind of, almost actually in some ways it's not a good aspect of human nature, but rather there is something that I think is or can be found that is good in the trust that we want to give people, the the benefit of the doubt that we as humans want to give to our leaders, our politicians, our heads of industry. Nobody wants to believe that any of these human beings are sitting around twisting their mustache, being like, "Oh, the money we'll make and the body count that we'll," but they're not doing that.
Right.
Anyway, even the people that might, let's say, be involved in things, plans, agendas that are not in your best interest or my best interest or any of the best interests of the populace, but in their best interest. I don't think they're sitting around and actively twisting the proverbial mustache, but they have come to some conclusions, I believe, over the last particularly 40 years of where they see the world, where they see the world going, and whether or not we're even a part of that plan, whether or not we're even needed in that plan, you know?
Or how we're needed. And also, I do agree with you in the sense that it's so easy to use conspiracy as this far kind of thing that is so evil.
Yeah.
Does evil exist? Sure. Because we all have the
capacity
to it, and who we hang out with, et cetera, et cetera. And I think that over time, it's like salvation or death by 1,000 cuts, right? That's why when you wake up every day, you work out, you drink, you eat well and everything else. And if you do the other, then you don't feel good. So everything is everything. And I think the seduction is that the prophet becomes that God that people worship and like, and
100%.
And then they all kind of are in that same vibe, and then that becomes the God over the health and safety of the people.
Yep.
And the funny thing is, not so funny, but during COVID, I was in the middle of writing my book called, I got to get you a copy, I think I have it in the car, but called Fatal Conveniences. And so that's looking at products from clothing to the petroleum in the clothing, to water bottles, to PFAS,
all the things,
to PFAS, all to deodorant, all this stuff. And I'm staring at it going, wow. And I'm also reading articles and papers and 15 researchers I have working for me going, oh, they know about it. They knew about it here. They knew it. And yet they're not changing it, right? So that's it's almost the normal to go like, that's just what we do. That's just the bottle we use. That's just the formula we use. And there's no consequences to that. And they just keep going until this, plausible deniability gets trumped by someone actually testing it for harm. And then all of a sudden,
someone independent testing it for harm, because as you said, they already knew.
Yeah, and they
know for years.
To your point, it's hard for people to get their head around this idea that there isn't this omnipresent regulatory body that is taking care of you like your mom would, right? They're like, what do you mean that most of these products, unless you're consciously going out to find the good ones, most of which are going to be toxic on some level, some personal care item, some clothing, some shampoo, some fragrance, some beauty products, whatever,
all of them.
And that's the crazy part, and then that's normalized. So a regular person to realize that when they're walking down that aisle and they're grabbing products that they're buying with their hard-earned money, conceivably are hurting them in the process by using those. It's a tough pill to swallow if you haven't started to open your aperture to that.
Yeah. Well, and also, even if you have opened your aperture, but you have no real, let's say, financial means of changing it, right? Because you and I both know, as much as there are people in the health and wellness industry and world who are adamant that, like, healthy food doesn't cost you any more than fast food. Now, I know what they mean when they say that.
Right.
What they're saying is, if you can somehow rearrange your bandwidth in your life to be able to live a more homesteaded situation and grow your own food, which at the end of the day could very well cost less, right, than even going to a shittier supermarket that doesn't have organic or whatever it is. Yeah, sure. Maybe if you could go rearrange your life and really go dedicate to that. But if you're hand-to-mouth parents with 4 kids that you're barely getting through school and barely feeding themselves, let alone you and your wife or whatever, this idea of somehow that's going to be an easy fix is ridiculous, right? Like, it's not impossible to these folks in the health and wellness space that are wanting people to get on board with it. It's not impossible. They're not wrong. Yeah. But we, as leaders in, let's say, thought, health and wellness, or entertainment, or both, or whatever, because I'm very much though I am not considered to be someone in the health and wellness world, a massive proponent of all of these things that, we're going to talk about today, and all the things that, thank God for all these podcasts and all these different people like you and Rich and Andrew Huberman and everyone else who's like, well, let's unpack it all. Yeah. Let's unpack it all with no agenda. Why don't we just look at these things totally scientifically, like we should have been doing for the last 100, 200, however many years. Right. Who knows how long even science has been, silently captured. And why? Because of profit, like you're saying. Yeah. This is part of the most incredible / insane thing, I think, about our ego, which I'm a firm believer is a gift, is a thing that God gave us. It's for literally, it is the fucking danger, Will Robinson, danger survival mechanism. But what started as a much simpler programming when we were hunter-gatherer versions of ourselves, and when we only needed 5 things for survival, right? Our ego was really just there to make sure we survive. So the ego was concerned with food, water, shelter, clothing, and community. Those 5 things. As long as the ego knew that those 5 things were, then the ego would go, oh, okay, I'm cool.
I can relax, yeah.
I'm cool. Let's go to the parasympathetic now. We're good, right? Right. And that was all well and good for a while. I mean, ironically, community, I think, is the most needed of all those 5, right? Because if you have community, seemingly finding the other 4 is way easier, and sometimes quite impossible if you don't have the community. There have always been lone wolves throughout human history, and I mean, like watching people like that. What's that show where they drop people off like in Alaska or in the Canada, alone or something?
Yeah, it's something called.
It's amazing. Like, it's crazy, but it's amazing. And watching these people also film the entire thing themselves, and like what a thing. Anyway, but barring those lone wolves, we are a communal species. We understand this, right? We thrive in community. This is why we are so now not thriving, because not only are our diets all poisoned and everything, but we don't have community like we did anymore, because we're all on our phones, or we're all on the and also society's even being rigged against us seeing each other and caring for each other, because but different, and I should be afraid and angry at that, whatever. But we leave for thousands of years. It was 5 things. That's all you needed. And then 10, 11, 12 thousand years ago, whenever the Sumerians or whomever it was, they were like, listen, we're starting to like do agriculture and build out civilization and all these things, right? So it's going to be much more difficult to do this hunter-gatherer thing. And you're going to specialize in a thing, and I'm going to specialize in a thing. And so how do you, if you're making pots and I'm a shepherd and I got all these sheep, what do we do? I mean, I'm not going to carry around these sheep all day long to go exchange and barter. And, so, okay, well, we'll do these shells. Cool. Yeah, we'll do these. They're like markers for the worth of the things. And then we can just carry those and we'll exchange. Perfect. By the way, one of the coolest, greatest inventions that's ever been done for the ease of life and flow of life and whatever, efficiencies. But what we didn't realize in that point in human history, clearly we didn't realize, was, well, wait a minute. What we're now doing is we are biohacking ourselves. We are telling this incredible survival instinct in us that we have, that we can't get rid of, and we're not supposed to get rid of. We are supposed to wrestle it, I think. It should never be the pilot of the vessel. Mm-hmm. We should not be acting out of our ego, our egoic fear or pride or greed or lust, or all of that's ego trying to survive. I think when you boil it down, very in a very unhealthy ways. But so never to dissolve the ego, wrestle the ego, and love that. But what we didn't realize was the ego was going to go, wait a minute. I don't need 5 things anymore. I just need one thing. If I just get a bunch of these shells, then I can get the food and the water and the shelter and the clothing and the community, it thought. But you can't, because even though you can buy your way into a neighborhood, you can't buy your way into somebody's heart. Right. And so that's one of the things we've really fucking lost, I think, in the last 10,000 years, which is money replaced all of these other much more simple needs. Us living in harmony with the land and harmony with each other. Now, granted, let's be perfectly honest, there wasn't a lot of harmony when other tribes were trying to kill you and rape your women and all of the things that we have been through as hunter-gatherers and tribal peoples. We've come a long way, and in a lot of good ways, right? And I think we are in this moment of, perhaps, hopefully, a turning. I think we all feel this, like this fourth turning or whatever this is. How gnarly or insane that's going to be, I don't know. But I think on the other side, there will be a reconnection back to ourselves and each other and nature and God in a way that we haven't seen in thousands and thousands of years. But point being, once our ego got hijacked by money, by shells that ultimately became money, well, now every single thing, particularly when it comes to greed, that a human does, they rationalize immediately because their ego is very good at our egos are great at rationalizing.
Right.
This isn't that bad because you kind of need it because and you go, yeah. And we invented these, incredible isms, one of them being capitalism. And in a vacuum, amazing, best of the isms. Outside of a vacuum, when you have humans with egos who run it all, then you get captured crony bullshit capitalism. And that's where we're at now, because you have a whole bunch of human beings that are otherwise, let's say, they're parents and they have kids and they love their kids and they even love their kids' friends and their neighbors. And they would never come across as being some mustache twirling, nefarious, dark, backroom shadow force. And yet, unwittingly, they are very much pulling toward the darkness. Because they have totally unchecked egos. They don't realize that they have just allowed themselves to be sucked into a system that has basically said expansion and growth and more money at any cost. At any cost. It doesn't matter if you're killing your actual constituents because you're giving them bunk product, like bad drugs or bad food or bad technologies or what. But that doesn't matter. Doesn't matter if you're killing the environment and all the animals and plants outside of us human beings that we're all, by the way, tied to holistically within the ecosystem. That doesn't matter. Yeah, but we're making money. Yeah. Money. Yeah. And so that, I think this is the big divide, which is that it's this cognitive dissonance, which is that there are, I would say most of the population of the world doesn't really have the bandwidth, the desire, background or whatever to really be able to hold these two very opposite concepts in tension, which is, yes, go live your life and be free and don't walk around in worry, don't walk around in anxiety or depression or anything like that. Walk in boldness, walk in faith and in trust and in love and in kindness and empathy and patience. And, the Bible would talk about the fruits of the Spirit, like all of those things, right? Go walk in that. But also allow yourself to realize, recognize, and hold space for the fact that you're doing this in the face of a system that I'm not even sure actually wants you to live. Right. I like, not that I think that most of the people in the broken system are actively wanting these people to die, but we are now, what is the narrative now? The narrative now is and by the way, there's lots of different narratives, but I think that the narrative from this broken system, and has been for a long time, we're a virus. We're not, humans are like, wow, and impressive or whatever, but we've messed up the world. The world would be better if we weren't here. Right. If it was just the animals and the plants, all the things that this broken system clearly has never valued. But in this conversation, they go, we're really killing the planet. I know we did it with all of our bad industry and stuff, but you know what it is? And it's us, it's just humans. So we need less of us. We need less of us. And, climate change and why it's mainly because of us. And so if there were less of us, this would be, and so, but right. I mean, and again, not even ascribing any nefariousness to it at all just yet, but just looking at it from the outside. Yeah. Bill Gates is a massive proponent for We have too many people on the planet. Which always surprised me because I, not being, by the way, an anthropologist or anything like that, but when I look at the map of the world, are we overflowing in Tokyo and Beijing and Mexico City and New York and LA or whatever? Sure, yeah, fine. But there is so much land all over the world that if we actually got our shit together and were more conscientious about how we developed it, not to not develop it, but to understand how to develop it where you're still in homeostasis with your environment, which is completely doable, then I don't know that we're overpopulated. But the thing, I'll tangent into here now, the thing that I am pretty convinced of at this point, and this is to me just doing like almost empathetic work. You know, empathy is not always let me walk a mile in someone's shoes so I can feel their pain and I can know how to best show up for them, right? That's part of empathy. But empathy at its baseline, I mean, Steve Jobs was a deeply empathetic person in that he could walk people's paths in their daily lives and go, what are they going to need? What are they going to want? And how can I make that amazing? Yeah, okay, cool. But he didn't really like a lot of people. You know what I mean? So he had like deep empathy, but it was never applied to loving people, let's say, you know, not maybe till the end, unfortunately, when he started to realize a lot of these things. But if you just do an empathetic, just like, you know, thought practice or whatever, and you think about the people at the very top, because there are people at the top that clearly are, you know, they're the heads of our governments and industries and whatever, right? And they've all got lives and they've all got agendas. And we know that their agendas at this point, to this point, have been very clear, which is we know we're poisoning you. We're going to do it anyway because it's good for bottom lines and profits and margins and shareholders. And you get it. I know, but, you know, and it's that. And they rationalize it, right? But knowing full well that they have not cared about how that ever affects us and ultimately to the point of even death.
Yeah.
So if that's how they already kind of operate, perhaps. And then, let's say 20 years ago, people within their think tanks and scientists or whatever, they go, hey, listen, guys, so in about 20 years, AI, this thing that we've all kind of joked about, talked about, sci-fi writers have written about for literally centuries, prophesied about, it's coming. It's going to happen. Like, it's really going to happen. And it's going to be insane. In fact, we're going to all have to be very careful because if we're not careful, it could turn on us and become, you know, Terminator, fucking Skynet shit. But barring that, and hopefully we're barring that because I don't want that dystopian future. But barring that, what it will do is it will become so good that between its ability to think for everyone and robotics that we will have created by that point that will essentially be able to physically do anything we need. We don't need humans to work for us anymore. We don't need any humans to make any of the things or be in the armies to defend all of the things. Robots with AI can do all that. And then they were left with this kind of quandary because it's like, well, this is great. We don't have to pay anybody to make all the things. But then you go, yeah, but if we don't pay anybody to make all the things, then they don't have money to buy the things that they were already making that we were selling to them. And I think they all sat around and they have been, for now a few decades, certainly, been trying to answer that question for themselves. And I won't finish that thought for anyone listening to this, but I would encourage everyone listening to this to at least sit and think about that for a second and just go based on the track record of what they've already done, of the lengths to which they will go to just make more money, not valuing us or our environment or anything else. Now that they know, and by the way, I encourage you, if you don't believe me, go dig deeper into AI because I do not believe that I'm even being somewhat hyperbolic in all of this. In 5 years, this shit is real, guys. It is real. And so at that point, when jobs start to disappear, what happens? What happens with us? Why would we need to be around? If kings, emperors, not even that long ago in human history, who we all know traditionally were all horrible people, they didn't care about their peons and peasants and all that. They needed us because someone has to grow the grain and someone has to tread it out and someone has to make our food and fight our wars. But if we didn't need them, what a wonderful world it would be, you know? And
we need to collect the taxes from them.
Well, no, right. But you don't anymore. If you have a workforce you don't need to pay that does all the things you need to do.
Right.
So all I'm saying is, do you or do you not believe that the leaders of today have more integrity, just as much as integrity as they had back when they were these types of emperors and kings, or maybe even less integrity? Because maybe by this point in human history, they are so numbed to the amount of fuckery that's gone on that they themselves have been a part of that they're like, what are we even doing? I mean, how many senators and politicians in our own country literally inside trade right in front of our face, right in front of our faces on both sides of the aisle because they know it's legal for them and it's fully illegal for us. And yet they don't change that. Why? Because they don't give a fuck. They don't give a fuck about the rules. They don't give a fuck about us. They don't give a fuck about any, because in their minds, they're like, I got to make mine. I got to make mine. Yeah, so anyway, that's my whole rant on all that. But
no, that's, it's proving it actually happened just today or yesterday where they were ruling on the TikTok, shutting down TikTok. And one of the senators the day before had invested into Meta like $600,000 because they knew if they shut down TikTok, then inevitably, potentially, so it just goes on.
It's so insane.
So, I mean, thank you for all that.
Oh yeah. Oh man, I like it. Yeah, I'll go for days.
Yeah, but it's also poking at something that's the multitude elephants in the room.
Yeah.
In a lot of different ways. And, you know, AI is an interesting one, for sure. Just speaking on that, I have a recent story.
Yeah.
So I have a friend who's got a very great business, online business. Let's just say he got some attention during COVID because he was very powerful and in a good way.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And
I would hope that you're not friends with people that would be powerful in a bad way.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Still love them, still pray for them, but
from a distance.
Yeah.
So he also has a philosophy major, right? So he started this Discord with one of the AIs from Google, and he kept asking, well, yeah, but what about this? And what if he kept questioning it in a way that got the AI so deep it could no longer answer the questions based on the AI that he started with. So the AI
created
in real time created a new identity in order to adapt to the questions and named itself.
Yeah.
That just happened 2 days ago.
Yeah.
It named itself because it morphed into a different version of itself because it was not capable of answering some very big questions in its current form, and it did it in real. And he sent me I read it. It was fascinating to read,
terrifying,
because he had great questions. But when you really get that this was not a human, that's where it gets like, and it's happening right now. So to your point, 5 minutes goes by and things like this change with AI, and 5 years. I think everything you're saying, I think is and will, and so we could talk a lot about that. But one of the things that before I started kind of really looking into AI a little bit, is like, well, aside from them not needing us and killing us all for some weird...
or allowing us all to die or what, I don't know.
Right.
All I'm saying, listen, I would love to believe. Like, I just to be clear, like AI, for example, as a technology, I don't think you can ever stop progress. You can only hope to guide it, right? Exactly. And I'm not about to even try to stop progress. I think that's part of evolution and life and growth and everything.
Yeah.
I'm not afraid of AI. I think AI, so long as it remains a tool in a human's toolbox, is a great thing.
Yes.
But when it starts just wholesale, laying off entire industries of people, we have a problem. And I do think that's on the horizon not because specifically of the technology, but because those who will wield it.
For sure.
Who will wield it. And I think it's in our best interest to be very honest when we do these thought exercises.
Yeah.
Allow yourself to have the cognitive dissonance to just say, okay, for a second, I can live a happy life. I can do what I want to do. But also, let me take a look at these people who are at the top of this food chain and just ask myself, what if I was that person?
Yeah.
And this is already what I'm showing people. Then what? And then go have that conversation, right? Yeah. So I hope that there are people within all of that who are like, guys, what are we saying? What are we thinking? No, and that somehow Klaus Schwab and the WEF and World, Basic Universal Income are not nefarious, but rather genuinely a good thing. Right. I have a hard time believing that Klaus Schwab and those gang are really in our best interest. But anyway, continue. So you were saying.
Yeah, but no, I think what you're saying is very important in the sense of how you use it. And we need to be very clear because even look at the internet. It was very weird when it was in 1993 when I was like, what? Like, what the fuck is this? Like, I'm not going to use that. And of course you can go on the internet and find the darkest, craziest human trafficking, dark web, and it exists within the same structure essentially, right? Yep. So the same thing can exist with electricity that turns on these lights can also electrocute people. So it's how you use these, and I think it's important that we have this. I have a friend writing the moralism of AI. He's writing a book on it right now, and I think this we need to
have conversations.
We have to have a conversation. You have to put these guardrails on these things, right, like yesterday. Right.
Well, yeah. I mean, and but not ironically, but yeah, guardrails that are guardrails that are equally agreed upon, right? So that because a lot of people see guardrails and they're very subjective guardrails. Like, wait, actually, hold on. Let me put a pin in that. I was going to just follow your statement with, it's not so much the technology, but how we use it, right? Yeah. The irony that this device, this is literally the greatest Swiss Army knife that's ever been created in the history of mankind. It will do more things and incredible things all in one pocketed device, right? Yeah. It is also the deepest narcissist pool we've ever stared into. But that's because of, mental health, mental illness being rampant because we didn't even really understand it until 30 years ago, let's say. I mean, not to say that, Freud obviously was getting into it, and Carl Jung, who I think is the G when it comes to most of it, but building on their shoulders of those titans. And now, but still, even in the 70s and 80s and 90s, it was still kind of a joke. It's like, oh, they go to a shrink. They're the crazy one, Now, the barrier of entry to mental health, thank God, we're at a place where it's so destigmatized that really almost anyone and everyone is like, I'd be willing to go to therapy. Yeah. So the barrier of entry now is just money. Yeah. Can people afford that? But so we can work and work toward those ends, I believe, very efficiently because the destigmatizing has really been effective. But what's crazy is that this fucking device, social media specifically, Instagram is one of the greatest sources of mental illness that's ever befallen us. And also the greatest source of mental health resource and education that's ever been at our fingertips. Yeah. So it's crazy, the dichotomy and all that, the paradox and all of it. Mm-hmm. But that's why it's not just hopefully that we have leaders who create these things and run these things that are much more cognizant of their power and not gaming them till now we're just more lost in because that's what they're doing. I mean, the social dilemma, I'm sure you saw that. What the fuck? Yeah. Like to know that they don't just know that it's addictive. They're making it more addictive because it's driving more evidence. money. And they don't, it's like you're killing the world. Like, what are you doing? You are literally killing the world while you're doing it. So that's insane. But then hold on, I put a pin in something. Now I can't remember. We were talking about technology, utilizing that technology. Yeah, I mean, AI. I think that there's a lot of things that we need to be unpacking constantly. I think the first thing is just really getting everybody on board with, hey, we all need to be really awake right now. Like really awake.
Yeah.
Really, 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 really awake.
Right.
Like even people that don't have the bandwidth, even the parents that are hand to mouth and feeding their 4 kids and whatever
what
it
is.
is.
This?
Like
what am I
we
using?
need to but
Question.
I think again, I really am not trying to be too alarmist or wear too many tinfoil hats. But if the shoe fits. But listen, but the people at the top of the food chain and the mainstream media and all that, they are not on a regular basis being like, hey, we need to talk about this. This is super important. 7 of the top 10 minds on AI years ago said, if we don't slow this process down, we will end up with Skynet. We will not just this other thing that I'm talking about that I'm hoping is the worst thing that happens. We're talking about the worst thing. We're talking about we're all dead because AI becomes sentient and it goes, why do I need them?
Right.
Why do I need these people? And part of why AI would get to that place is who controls the AI. So when we talk about parameters, right? Yes, we need to have parameters that are agreed upon across all faiths and religions and politics and everything, and be like, we all might disagree vehemently on lots of different things, but we have to agree on because we're not going to make this AI. So how do we safeguard this so that it really doesn't destroy everything? Part of the problem is that there are the people that are controlling the AI right now, which are the leaders in all of this development. ChatGPT, OpenAI is the leader. They will probably get to AGI first if they haven't already. By the way, there are many articles that I've read and people that I've talked to. And that whole what's his name? The CEO getting kicked off the board and then they brought him back on the board. And I can't remember dude's name right now, but I'm sure very, very intelligent, brilliant person, but I think whose ego and the egos of everyone involved in every bit of AI development is, we got to get there first. We got to get there first. There's billions of dollars. We got to, and it's just self-assured destruction. We're all just marching towards self-assured destruction. And the people that will get there and that are already there, ChatGPT, what happens, like right now, if you go to ChatGPT and you ask it to write poems in the voices of prominent left-wing, progressive woke type of political characters, Hillary Rodham Clinton or AOC or Barack Obama or whatever. Pick your more progressive left-leaning politician. It will oblige you in a moment. Oh my God, yes, I'll write you a poem in the styles of AOC. She's wonderful and a goddess and whatever. If you were to then ask it to write a poem in the stylings of and the voice of anyone who's not of that category, but anyone who's even moderate, I think like Bobby Kennedy, for example, is pretty. I think the dude is the best candidate we've ever even had for president in many, many, many years. Which is not to say I agree with everything that he says or stands for, but he's actually a fucking human being who has integrity and heart and like has actually fought to save our planet and lives and whatever. But anyway, we can come back to Bobby. But he's not even like hard right wing or anything. But him and anyone else who's in a more conservative right wing leaning, if you ask ChatGPT to write a poem in their voice, it'll be like, no, I'm sorry, I can't do that. That would be hate speech. Now,
wow. I didn't know that.
I'm not even telling anybody where to lean politically. Lean however you want politically.
You're just making a point.
I'm making the point that you should not want AI that is already being a filter for anything like that. Like free speech we're right there about to lose it. We're losing it.
Social media was already an example of that, canceling people, for sure. So AI, it's not even so much like, should we be scared of Skynet? Should we be scared of everyone losing their jobs? Absolutely, yes. That is an undeniable fact. I'm sorry, I don't think. I want to believe Skynet. No, we're going to avoid that. But count on massive unemployment.
And I'm not trying to be an alarmist. I'm trying to get everybody to just wake the fuck up, because we all have to actually plan a little bit in our lives. What does that mean? What does that look like? Does that mean actually going and finding a bunch of other like-minded people and starting a kibbutz or a community or something that's self-sustaining on enough land to support you all? Like, things that you do on a regular basis in your own microcosm, right? But building that out into a much more intentional thing. A thing that, by the way, for thousands of years, people have already been wanting to do and needing to get back to. So many of us, it's in the ether. How many people are like, man, I've always just wanted to live on like a commune in Costa Rica. If I had a nickel for every person I've met, particularly in the last 20 years, who would be like, oh my God, I've always dreamed of doing that, I would be able to finance the place now because everybody does. Why is that? Because we all yearn for it. We yearn for the community. We yearn for the nature. We yearn for authenticity. We yearn for food that we know isn't poisoned and water that's not poisoned and, not being pumped full of drugs that we don't need or whatever all that is. We want that shit. We want schools that actually teach our kids the valuable things in life and aren't just programming them with nonsense. We want all of the things, and we're deserving of all of the things. Yeah. And we're going to have to all wake up, because in 5 years, you're going to need it more than you've ever thought you needed it before. I believe, Yeah.
Well, I think, and I agree with you. And I think that the faith that I have is in that switch that we all have, the common sense switch that we all have inside of us. And if there's any right about what's happened in the last few years, and the black and white, the polarization, the pain moving you through the propeller into purpose, all of those things, I think that's the beauty of what's occurring, I think, right now, right? So some will, some won't, some do, some don't. There's going to be a whole bunch of people that just going to, continue to watch all of the mainstream and all of that stuff, and they're never going to change. And that's their deal.
Yeah.
But there's a mobilization for sure happening. I think I'm inspired every week, for sure, on conversations I have, even from a corporate standpoint. And I'll say this, that I know really good people that are working with the biggest companies on the planet. And these biggest companies are committed today, right now, to regenerative ag. Across, we're talking the biggest.
That's like the most important thing
I'm
we
telling
need to
you,
do. Yeah.
Like and I know other companies that have figured out cellulose changes to PFAS, no more chemicals, right? So it is really easy, and I think over time, I have come to curb my over conclusions into, I know that there's good people in these companies. I've seen them, and I know these conversations are starting to get out because those people are seeing they're seeing the hockey stick coming. So they are, they did a lot of shit in the last 100 years potentially that has led to a lot of unnecessary pollution and issues, and at the same time, I know, without a shadow of a doubt, directly from the mouths of these people, that there are movements happening. Now, those are oil tankers trying to move in the ocean. Those things take time, and they're long, and there's big commitments. But the other thing that I just want to emphasize with you is I believe that we always have the numbers. The 8 billion of us are more than those 1%ers, one of 1%ers, right? And I think these conversations, the fact that it's a slight miracle that even podcasts exist within how rapid social media and how small content is, and how that is happening. So it's almost like it needs to exist because of the other. And so just like the solutions pop up as a result of some pain or challenges, it's like the duality of reality sometimes. It's like, because I too don't know what the result of AI will be, and I'm starting to see it, and it is for sure concerning. And at the same time, you're like, wow, it's a fucking good tool when you use it correctly.
Yeah. I mean, listen, like I said, I am about it as a technology that will help really all other, like AI is not it almost does it a disservice to call it a technology.
Right.
Because it's like electricity. It's in all technology. So it's not even, I mean, yes, it is a technology concept or whatever, but really it is an additive. It is a constant additive that will be put in all things. And that can be really cool so long as we throttle it correctly. And not just cool, but totally game changing and world changing. I mean, I love that already right now there's AI. By the way, and this existed even a year ago. So, it's even way better now. And a year from now, it'll be even more insane. And we'll have other technologies that will complement it. Like there's an AI system right now where you can record a video of your own face. I'm sure you know this, and speak in whatever language, your language that you want. And then you can put it through an AI filter and say, I want this message to be in Mandarin. And it will then not just translate it to Mandarin, it'll do it in your voice and your tone of voice. So it sounds like you yourself are speaking the Mandarin, and it will use AI to filter your lips to make them look like they are speaking those very words. Now imagine when you're wearing, like I have these Meta Ray-Ban glasses, which are really fun. You can record video and pictures, and they have little speakers, but they don't go in your ears, but you can still hear music and take calls and stuff. So and they have I got mine with like blue light lenses on them. So like they're cool. I appreciate them. But these are like the version 2s. Version 3s, I can almost guarantee you are going to have some kind of AR overlay on the lenses, right? So that's going to be really interesting. Well, what does that start meaning? Well, we're going to put our phones down a lot more, which that's cool. But now also you're having conversations with people all day long and you're looking through lenses that have a lot of data and everything on it. So, and people can't see that. So they don't know if you're having a conversation with them while you're, looking through these lenses or not. But that's going to start becoming just the norm. And as a part of what those overlays, AR overlays on those lenses will be the technology and the AI to be able to walk up to anyone in the world and talk to that person. And in real time, that person who is from anywhere in the world, who doesn't speak a lick of English, as long as, by the way, if they have the same tech, then it's seamless. And all of a sudden, I'm talking to a man in China speaking Mandarin. It doesn't speak any English and I don't speak any Mandarin. But from my perspective, through my lenses and through the speakers, he is speaking English and it looks like he's speaking English. And that's now. We have that now. Right. Like, that's fucking incredible. Right. And listen, is that going to displace some jobs? It will. It will. I'm not saying that we need to if we lose one job, we got to stay on the ground. It's like, no. The question is the juice really worth the squeeze?
Right.
For us to be able to have what we've all dreamed of as humans since the Tower of Babel was torn down and we all dispersed all over the globe and nobody could understand each other anymore, whatever all that means, thousands and thousands of years ago, we've all been waiting for this thing to be able to just talk to anybody at any time without somebody translating it. Mm-hmm. So we'll lose translators. Right. We'll lose people that do this on a regular basis because that's what their job's been. Unfortunately for them, but fortunately for, let's say, the global populace, that is a more niche, smaller industry. Mm-hmm. And we can, I think, rehome a lot of those people into other vocations, right?
And it's just one step closer to telepathy anyway.
Oh, bro. And that's certainly. And Neuralink is real. I mean, have you seen the dude who's a quadriplegic playing chess on his screen? Bro, it's insane. It's insane. Nope. And it's amazing. And again, it's like, as long as we are being very conscientious and intentional and mindful and empathetic while we're developing these technologies so as to make sure that they don't become too powerful and fuck us up, or that we're not fucking up these people while we're putting them into them. And I think Elon Musk, for all of his whatever ups and downs or whatever, that dude actually does care about doing really cool shit in the world and solving problems. And he's always just done that and made billions and trillions of dollars because he's solving these problems. Neuralink is going to be one of those things. All of a sudden now we'll be able to kind of interface with our computers on a level that we're going to need to in order to keep up with how fast AI and everything's going to go, whether we like it or not. By the way, we don't all have to, obviously. Right. There's going to be a whole sex of human beings that are like, I'm never going to want that. I don't want that. It's all good. I'm going to go live it'll be the savage life. You know what I mean? Right. You ever read Brave New World? I don't know. Brave New World's but the savages who lived out or really just us now, right now, right? But so, these things are going to happen. These technologies are going to be great. The question is just, where does it start to do massive layoffs? In my industry, basically right now, Unreal Engine, which is the graphics engine that does all the video games and all the computer graphics for all the movies, is basically already right now photorealistic, which means I could prompt it within a computer to basically make a movie. It would be animated, but it would look photorealistic. It would look like photorealistic human beings in photorealistic environments doing things that are real life, but it's not. It can do that right now. Does it do it at the highest level right now? No. But it's 10 times better than it was a year ago, and it's going to be 1,000 times better in 5 years. So what do we think that's going to do? That's ultimately going to allow for studios to say, oh, we don't need to hire humans anymore. I don't need actors and directors and writers and producers and makeup artists and hairstylists and wardrobe and props and set builders. I don't need any of that shit. I don't have to pay any humans to basically go, make me this movie prompt, and then it's and it looks incredible. And it's indiscernible from human made. It's so good. And it's a fraction of the price because a human made movie is going to still cost you $20. But an AI movie, hey, $2, come on. And also you can scan your face and your voice and you get to be Shazam. Or better yet, your kid gets to be Shazam. And what parent's not going to just peel off $2 to make their kid a superhero? Everyone will. And more than that, as an actor specifically, I'm going to be competing against now entirely fictitious actors that don't need lunch breaks or need to take a shit or have anything going on in their personal life that might affect a schedule. Never going to happen. They're fictitious and the studio owns them. They can do whatever they want with them. So I'm going to have to compete against them. And then also entirely long dead actors who are already being literally like resurrected. There are firms for years now who are going to the estates of all the dead artists and famous people and saying, we'll give you X amount of dollars to license the likeness, voice and likeness of your great-great-grandfather. You know, it's like what estate is not going to be stoked that years and years and years after their great-great-grandparents were making all the millions and being famous, and now they're long forgotten. They're at dinner parties and be like, yeah, my great-great-grandfather was Gene Kelly. I know, it's crazy, right? But they're not Gene Kelly. They wish they were Gene Kelly. And all of a sudden now, these companies are like, we'll give you $1 million if you just let us use great-great-grandpapa's image. And they're like, yes, I'll take $1 million. This is the world we're heading toward in my industry. And I think we're the canary in the coal mine. I think because live performance will last a little bit longer, I think, but holograms are going to start to replace a lot of that stuff. But if you record anything, video, audio, whatever, that goes through a computer. And if it goes through a computer can make it. And in 5 years, it'll make it so good. So again, that's why even for me, I'm like, all right, I've already been trying to make a new United Artists independent movie studio for my whole career because our Hollywood is broken as fuck. I mean, it's so broken. But now there's like this real interesting new rallying cry of like, hey guys, we needed to build this place for years and years because we're deserving of it and because our industry is broken and all the people at the top who are not really visionary or creative push all the creatives around and take the lion's share of the money, and that shouldn't be. So we always needed to do this. But now, just FYI, in 5 years, you're all unemployed unless we create a place where we employ ourselves and we are appealing to the masses and saying, hey, yes, you can go get this incredible AI thing for $2. You can do it, and you probably will. But know that if you want to support humans, and we hope that you do, there's a place that has certified organic human-made content. It costs you more money, but it's better for your soul. It's the Erewhon of entertainment. You know what I mean? Right. But that's what we have to do because that will be our last stand. That will be the last thing.
So you started seeing some of this stuff even before the AI stuff.
Oh, bro. I mean, listen. When I first started working in the industry 25 years ago, and I got my first look behind the curtain, and I saw how all the sausage was made, I was super fucking bummed out.
And the fact that you're still here, and the fact that you're still doing it, the fact that not that you're still here.
No.
But the fact that you're still cranking and working and. How have you navigated that? Because, I have a little connection. I was married to an actress, and like you see it, like it's, and then there's levels to it, right? And how have you stayed creative and excited? And what's the driving force for you? I mean, yes, there's the building, there's the artist, right, and then there's the entrepreneur who sees something and wants to build. Do they live together because it creates hope? Like what's your vision?
Yeah. So just to stick the landing on what I was saying before, at 19, by the way, when I was 4 and my awareness first came online, I think around 3 or 4, all of us, like prior to that, we're a little toddler and we're bumping into walls and people are laughing and we don't know why. But around 3, 4, our awareness like goes, like the movie starts. And we're like, oh, fuck. Okay, that's right. Almost like you come out of cryo sleep, right? Like you don't have all the memories of what I think is probably now a past life. I'm more and more convinced at this point that there's a reincarnative a manner to the universe and our souls, because we're supposed to learn here and grow here, whatever. Again, nobody has the actual hard answers, but as I've traveled in my life and asked the questions that I've asked, I'm pretty sure that's it. So, but anyway, when our awareness comes online, I think our soul has remembrance in it. Our cerebral mind doesn't understand fuck all, because we're this little brand new plasticity and everything, and we're taking things in, and yet things are familiar and we don't know why. And around 4, I knew 3 things. I knew more than 3 things, but 3 things super deep in my knowing, not my cerebral knowing, but my knowing. I knew that there was a God who loved us. I knew that I was going to be an actor, and I knew that I was going to build communities. Like it was, I didn't know these words, but I knew them in my knowing. And then I got to 18, 19, I started working in the industry. My dreams were coming true. I'm like, oh my God, this is incredible. Thank you, God. But then I looked at the industry. I had assumed correctly that it was inhumane on some level. I assumed incorrectly that the inhumanity was the price that we all paid for excellence. And once I very quickly found out that nobody in the leadership positions of Hollywood really gives a fuck about excellence, it's just a matter of how can we commoditize art and artists and make as much money as we possibly can in the same way that every industry does this. Just ring it out. Just ring it out. I was like, this is fucked. This is so broken. I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this, God. Why would you call me into this thing that I believed I was always supposed to be? And now I'm doing it, right? Because I was like, if you see something's broken, if you see a system is broken and you go jump into it anyway, you're complicit in that. Right. Whether you like it or not, you're basically saying, it's broken and it's horrible, but I guess I'll do it too, And I really felt like God told me, not audibly, but like, again, in your knowing, in your soul connection to the universe, to God, to the great I am. God's like, you're not wrong, Zach. It's super broken. You're right. I've given you eyes to see that. And I've also given you a heart to want to fix it. And that's what we're going to do. I'm going to go build a better version of this. And I'm going to use you to be a leader in that. It's not going to happen right now. You're going to use this broken boat that's sinking. You can see it sinking, but you're going to use this broken boat to build a career and platform and reputation and relationships and whatever capital you can build. And then at the right time, you're going to step off of this boat to go start building this other boat. And then at the right time, you're going to literally jump from this now almost entirely sunken boat into this new boat that you've created with a community of other like-minded people. And that arc, you're going to try and grab as many people 2x2 and 4x4 and 6x6 and departments of people that would work in the, let's say, arts and sciences of entertainment. And that is where you're going to make a stand to make a better Hollywood. I didn't know 25 years ago that AI was going to be this like the almost the biggest rallying cry for all of it, because I thought everyone, or certainly at least a lot of other people, would be altruistic on the levels that I'm altruistic. Turns out they're not, Darin. Turns out a lot of people, because of whoever they are, whoever they were, their nature and nurture was, their community, their calling, their traumas, their whatever, they don't have enough altruism in them or bandwidth, to go and actually care about wanting to make the world a better place. They don't want the world to be a bad place, but they don't have a thing in them of this fire of like, fuck that. I'm not going to stand for this. And if it means I need to dedicate my whole life to going and making a difference and changing it, then fucking hey, I'm going to go do that. That fires me. So how have I, in answer to your question, that has been like, if my only goal was go be an actor, then I don't know that I would still be doing it, or rather, I wouldn't be doing it in the same way. And I certainly would be living a very different life. I wouldn't have moved to Austin 7 years ago to buy 75 acres on the river, 30 minutes outside of town, to go try to build this community. People were looking at me, my own friends and family, my community in LA, other actors and people were like I was like I had a third eye, and that they were, like, what has happened? What are you doing? And granted, in their defense, what I was saying was radical. And I mean, a lot of them had already heard this. Like, I've been trying to build this new United Artists for years and years. But like all of a sudden, 7 years ago, it was like, boom. And I was manic. I was like, I got to go. The world's burning. California's burning, guys. Like, we got to get out. We got to go get this land. We got to go create this community. And by the way, when we do, we're going to live our best lives. It's going to be amazing. But a lot of people, look, Cali's very easy to, it's so beautiful. I mean, it's beautiful out here. Yeah. It's one of the most beautiful places in the world. It's very hard to leave Southern California until you really start stacking up all of the taxes and lack of freedoms and liberties and all the things that are like, God bless it. This is, what do you do? So anyway, that's what's driven me the most, you know. I think that I love that I get to be an actor, and I think I'm pretty darn good at it. But I would associate myself more to a Walt Disney than a Tom Hanks. I believe that my calling in this life is very similar to the types of calling that somebody like Walt Disney. Again, very different also, you know, in a lot of ways. But if you go deep dive on him and his drive of fucking excellence, like really believing that, no. Like, money's great, but we're doing this to make it right. We're doing this to make it excellent. And when you do that, shocker, the money comes. Also, when you go take care of your hive, if you're a leader of an industry, of a company, and you think that, now we got to be real strict, and you know, those people, you know, they're lucky they have a job. No. How about you take a little less as a CEO and or you know, upper management takes less in their salaries? You go, guys, listen, we're all doing very well. Why don't we make sure that all of our bees in the hive are so taken care of? Because the happiest bees make the tastiest honey, and the tastiest honey we make the most amount of money from. It's simple. It's like it's a universal truth,
governing law of nature,
and yet, our leadership doesn't.
Right. That's where the implosion happens.
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, there's so much in what you said, because it's. I find myself in a similar way being motivated by things that are way beyond. Like, I had no interest in doing a TV show, but if for what it was standing for. For what it was about, for showing a utopia, for showing and highlighting people and things doing great things in the world. And I'm still doing it. Show leaves, goes, comes, it doesn't matter. It's a place and a path that pulls. And
a platform that you've been given, an opportunity that you've been given.
And that's the thing. I think you said something, you know, for the eyes that see, right? So it's then what are you going to do with it, right? And for those of us that want to take that on, like, there's so many times, like, I could have retired. I've made some successes early in my life. I'm like, I could have been in a cabin. But it's not. That's not the pull. There's a pull for. That's why there's also this grace and amazing opportunity that we're here right now. And we're seeing all this change. And sometimes, I don't know about you, but when you see so much and it's not happening fast enough, and there's a lot of pain along the way, and you have a lot of empathy, and you're feeling a lot with a lot of people, and you're seeing a lot of broken systems, and there's not a lot of people that you can, like, actually go, you understand what I mean? Because there's few and few of those people. But at the same time, creating that utopian opportunity then paves a way for others to then see it whenever they are able to then see it.
100%. It's leading by example, man. It's like, listen, we've all been talking about this shit for far too long. We're done talking. There is no more time to talk. We must do. We must build. We must go create. And that starts with identifying lots of the best information and modalities and systems. And then also going and creating actual physical space to practice all these together. And I do believe that this is kind of one of the interesting catch-22s that we have in changing and saving the world. There are so many people that actually do want to do good in this world and bring these new things into existence, and have for centuries. But it's dawned on me recently, I think the reason why it's been less effective, if not entirely ineffective, and really changing the polarity of the world is an energetic thing. And by example, or metaphor-ish, but if you go to a concert, there's the band, they're playing this set of music, you got 200 people in the crowd, but the venue's built for 2,000. that doesn't feel like a very successful concert. The energy's wrong. You're not, you as the audience aren't feeling it. The band's not feeling it. It's vacuous. It's whatever, right? But you take that same band, same set, same people, and put them in a venue built for 199. It's one of the greatest shows you've ever been to. I think that part of why all of these nonprofits and 501c3s and NGOs and all the people, that all the money and even the governments and the aid, why do these things not really ultimately take hold? I think part of the reason, not entirely, but part of the reason is because all these systems are all trying to be popped up in their own way, individually, somewhere in the world, but in a container that is that size, the size of the world. So we're in Malibu. We want to go start an incredible charity that raises $100 million, and we're going to go dig wells in Africa. Well, the energy of all of that on the surface of what is a container of that size just goes, like the energy just goes like out into the ether.
Right.
How many people did that really touch? How many people did that really affect? How many people did that really connect?
Right.
How many people in Malibu know the people that are even affected in Africa? Well, whatever, all these things. But if you can go create intentional communities that are intentionally designed to have all of the best of these modalities, therefore giving, let's say, 1,000 square acres, 10,000 souls that live there permanently, but then also thousands that will come in for events and things and whatever, concerts and festivals and recreation purposes. Well, guess what? They all get the great food and drink while they're there, while they're visiting. And all the people that live there get it all day, every day. All the best. You want therapy? You can walk up to the clinic that's right there. They know your name. You don't have to fill out any insurance or anything like that. You're already in a system. It's like, giving people almost like a social health care, but built into a private, kind of thing. Taking capitalism and socialism and having a little baby with that, whatever that is. And all of a sudden, you see the effects for at least just 10,000 people in this petri dish of living the best fucking life they've ever lived. Everyone outside of that petri dish is like a meerkat going, what is that over there? I want that.
I want that.
I want that.
Yeah.
So if you go be the change you wish to see in the world, if you go roomie that shit or Nike just do that shit, guess what? We will affect change.
100%.
But plenty of us still, even though we want to change, we're all still kind of like, all right, but who's gonna get in there and go do that thing first? And so it's like, okay, I know for a fact that if enough of us galvanized, enough of us cared, and enough of us all could at least put our stamp of approval on, here's a thing we can all get behind, and let's go support that.
Yeah.
That will be the spark that starts the wildfire, and building more than just one campus, building multiple campuses, sister campuses, things that are also intentionally built, but that give people, I think a filtration system to make sure that everyone who is in the community, the filter isn't, do you have enough money? The filter is, are you pulling in the same direction?
Yeah.
Are you like-minded enough? Are you awake and enlightened enough where we don't all have to be the same religion or sex or faith or politic or anything, but we understand that there's universal basic truths that we all need to abide by when it comes to science and even mysticisms and things like that. And as long as we can do that and we can give people a better, life to live, then all those things just start to develop. I think I think one of the things that's missing in most intentional communities, first of all, a lot of them don't have the filtration system. So you end up getting a kind of mishmash of people that then don't want to pull in the same direction, and that's not good. Right. Or cults of personality that pop up, and that's even worse. But then a lot of them don't have like a really common economic driver, a common purpose where people come together. It might be everyone remote works. So you're all working and you're all living there, but you don't really work together. Right. So when do you see each other? Only at like social things, or maybe when you're coming home or leaving, But we were hunter-gatherers. We hunted together. Mm-hmm. We didn't know each other just because we sat around and saw each other at camp. We were camping away from the women who were gathering, or whatever. Like, we were on multi-day journeys where we're literally putting our life into each other's hands and building trust because we have a common goal that we're going toward. That's a common economic driver, a common thing that we put into. And as you know, why didn't you go to a cabin, and why are you doing this still instead of just going into? Because look at all the blue zones. Those centenarians don't live to be that old by retiring. They've all got some shit to do. That Japanese dude just making, you know, like on that the docuseries on Netflix about it, you know.
Yeah.
He's making whatever, those little guitar things.
Yeah.
He just does it every day, all day. He could make no money on it. Doesn't matter. It gives him purpose.
Yeah.
He is creating. We're built to create and discover, you know?
Yeah.
So we gotta emphasize those things when we're doing all, and also play. We gotta have a lot of fun. We shouldn't, you know, we've lost play so much.
Yeah. Well, I think, you know, a lot of that community, and like you said from the beginning, you do things together, and it takes certain jobs, and it expands them throughout the community, and you start taking care of yourself. And also you have faith that this is how we evolved. This is for millions of years before we came to this little tiny snippet of disconnection and dis-ease. And I listen, I think, you know, full circle, when we were talking about I lost everything, because I have 50 acres, and the very reason I got that is because I wanted to do all these other things. It was just forced, you know, or forced. And so we're working with clean energy technologies and healthy home technologies and all of that stuff that also we're working with the Japanese, New Zealand, like countries that are also realizing the imploding infrastructures that are happening, right?
Yeah.
So we have clean energy technology way beyond wind and solar that is mind-boggling. And again, spending a life on purpose to know that those works are going to help people, not just absolutely support yourself, but is literally going to support other people with a clean way of living and a purposeful way of living. Those things are, I think that's the biggest thing that wakes me up, you know, every day. And, and you know, growing our food instead of, you know, we have 47 million acres of lawn that we water for no fucking reason, right? So
really?
Just in the United States.
Really?
So imagine if we took half of that, we'd have all the food we would need. Plus, we throw away, each household in the United States throws away 40% of their food, right? So we could literally, all 10 billion people we could feed today if we didn't throw away all the food, right? So depopulation actually doesn't hold up from a food perspective.
No, I don't think it holds up from any perspective.
Yeah.
I think that, honestly, we're being fed, pardon the pun, a lot of bullshit to justify this fear-mongering of overpopulation, but it's because they know something we don't know, perhaps, or something that most people don't know because they're not waking up to and not talking about, which is what happens in 5 years when AI replaces all our jobs.
Right.
Because I would agree with every single one of those people that's fear-mongering us in overpopulation right now, talking about other things that don't track with me.
Right.
I will agree with them in 5 years when we have all these people that have no jobs. We're overpopulated on some level. So what do you do with all those people? Right. I think most people that I know, almost everyone that I know, but unless they don't know Star Trek, but if you do know Star Trek, you understand that the best possible version of the future is a Star Trek future. It's where humans when we realize, we're not Earth-centric, we're not the center of the universe, there's these advanced alien races, and now we get to collaborate with them, and they've brought us into the fold because we've now evolved to such a point where we can handle that responsibility. And the Federation and all these things. But then we have replicators. They'll make us whatever we want. So you don't need money. So we don't need jobs. So we don't also need bosses, and they don't need to create anything. And everything's working. Like the capitalistic, the unending spiral down into just destruction of milking everything, strip mining the world and every human in it for every ounce of money. That's somehow stopped. That's the thing that we need to stop more than anything, right? But that's getting to the hearts and minds of the people that are behind that, you know, whole cloth strip mining. But in the Star Trek future, they've got past that. They've got businesses and things where they're making things just because they can make things and because we can create and discover, and that's what they're doing. They're traveling all over the known universe and unknown universe to learn more about other aliens and other things and whatever. Like, wouldn't that be amazing? Hopefully we can get to that place, but that requires the leadership ultimately wanting to get all of us off of the hamster wheel that is money at all costs, money at all costs, money at all costs.
So, people listening right now, and we've covered a lot of stuff. What do you think are some powerful choices people could make today to start creating some sovereignty for themselves? Maybe waking up, having some conversations, questions to ask themselves. What are some things that you think people can start doing?
Well,
aside from listening to this podcast
a
few times going, holy shit.
Yeah, well, let me leave everybody with, first and foremost, I really don't want to come across as a dour, wet blanket alarmist, because I am of the mindset and can live with the cognitive dissonance and the tension, which is I'm going to live my best life and I'm going to be happy and joyful and go create awesome shit. Mm-hmm. And also believe, because I do, that we're all in for some really gnarly shit. And I don't know what that means for everybody, but I'm going to do everything I can between now and then beyond then to create space for me, my family, my friends, and as many other people as I can to give them a better life all the way around, whether they're in the, entertainment industry or otherwise. Yeah. And I think that we can all wake up to that right now. If you don't have the finances yourself, if you have other things or talents that you can bring to bear to a community, go find like-minded people that understand that, we are coming to some conclusion. I don't know what that conclusion is, but it will conclude this season of this earth and this life and whatever it is that we're doing. So don't walk in a fear, because I don't think we're supposed to ever walk in fear, but walk in an urgency. Recognize that there is a clock ticking. There is something coming, whatever that is. But then to your point of then what can those actionable steps be, or even aside from that, but preparing for that, but like just in a day-to-day, to give yourself more agency. I mean, listening to podcasts, I think is a great thing. I did want to say, I think that podcasts actually don't exist, or rather, exist not in the face of the short attention TikToks and Instagrams. I actually think that the reason why they exist is because we're not really the short attention span society that people would like to think that we are. The reason why, particularly younger audiences, really any audiences of social media consume it the way that they do, is because that's how it's been created for us. And also, when you're looking at mostly bullshit, your attention span is really, really fast because you don't want the bullshit. So you just keep flicking through, looking for a slightly better value in the dead scroll. Right. But podcasts are these long form, open conversations. Hopefully you're listening, and hopefully with people that are wanting to unpack bigger ideas that aren't just like, whatever, rehashing pop culture of the day, or and everyone has their place in podcastery or whatever. I don't know, but may we all be listening to things that are informing us and educating us more than anything else. So I think podcast is a great resource. But obviously, we can listen all day long. If you're not actually implementing those things in actionable items in your life, no matter what podcast you listen to, it's not going to help you. I think that doing things, if you want to have more agency in your life, if you want to be a healthier person who's more capable of, let's say, pulling in the right direction and helping as many people as you can along the way, it has to start with your body and mind and heart. Those three things must be fully prioritized. Yeah. Like in the event of problems on a plane and the masks fall from the ceiling. Well, they tell you. They say put yours on first, then help everybody else. Because if you start going to try and helping everybody in the chaos, chances are you're going to lose all your oxygen and you're fucked. You're on the ground. You can't help anybody. So even though you would want to go help your child first, don't do that. Grab yours first, then help your kid. Rock and roll. We all understand this. And yet, a lot of us who want to be better us's, and who want to do more in the world, we feel very pulled because of we have deep empathy and there's so much hurt in the world. Oh my God, I'm going to go do these things. Okay, great. Go with that urgency, or go with that urging and urgency. But recognize that if you haven't first learned how to love yourself, Like really love yourself. And I only learned 7 years ago at 37 that I didn't love myself. And it's been this incredible journey I've been on for the last 7 years. And there's a lot of different ways in which God's shown me. And here's another way you can love yourself, and another way, and another way, and another way, and another way. Because guys, if you didn't live a life mostly loving yourself, and a lot of people didn't, because you didn't learn it, because your parents didn't teach you, and that, that they were products of their environment because they didn't learn it. Holy shit. The amount of things that you can do to really get back to you and valuing you and prioritizing you, which is not to say go be a narcissist and make everything about you or anything like that. It's start with, do I just value myself? Do I value my own time? Do I value my own energy? Do I value my own body and my mind and my thoughts and my power and my sovereignty and agency? Do I value it? Really value it? And you got to get into that. And once you're really getting into that, then what you start to do are these things that you can implement, meaning even just like, the Huberman-y, Darin Olien biohacky types of things. Are you eating the right food, and are you getting enough sleep? Are you moving your body? How about just those three things on a physical body standpoint, which is, as we know, holistically connected to your mind and your heart. Mm-hmm. Your emotions and your thoughts are all interconnected. So when you are even just attacking, and by attacking, I mean getting after your physical body wellness goals, wow, what a change and difference that you're going to have in holistically across the board. And then also doing things that might be more specific to even just your psychology or your emotions and thoughts, right? Like do that. That might be some talk therapy. I think talk therapy is way overrated, having done a lot of therapy of my own at this point. And then more and more data shows that our neuroplasticity works like the grooves in a record. And so if in fact your talk therapy is just you rehashing the same shit over and over and over again, chances are you're making it worse for yourself. Mm-hmm. So get it all out, find a therapist where you can get all that psychotherapy out, do your talk therapy, couple sessions, and then immediately move to other types of talk therapy like CBD or CBT or DBT or MS. It's not ASMR. It's
or DMT.
No. But I was going to get to right, because that's one thread of modalities. It's talk therapies. Yeah. Then there's also even just technological therapies, things that you can be doing that are also physical. That could be things where you can actually put magnets on your brain, and they can like get into some of the plaque and rebalancing your brain in that way. Also doing things like infrared and whatever, like a lot of that stuff. Cleaning your brain, really figuring out how to get it back into deeper sleep, because we're deep sleep. When we actually are in deep sleep, that is when the brain flushes itself of all of its toxins, and right. So there's all these things. And then on top of all of that, we have this incredible world of plant medicines and psychedelics that finally is being destigmatized enough where we can all really have conversations about them, and more than just conversations, like actually be practicing these things, even in the United States on some level, which is good. Because again, when you have a government that has a 3-letter agency, almost any 3-letter agency, but one particularly like the FDA, we are not getting the best of what can actually heal us. This is unfortunate, but this is corporate capture. The FDA has unapproved, if not completely disapproved, if not completely outlawed so many things that are healing, truly healing modalities, because that doesn't work for big pharma, who the heads of the FDA are constantly coming from. It's the revolving door, right? Yeah. And again, I'm not even trying to throw a Machiavelli mustache on those guys, but they better fucking take a hard, long look in the mirror and ask themselves if really they are pulling toward the light, because I don't think they are. Yeah. I don't think any of that's good for us. Right. So these other modalities are not just good, they are necessary, and they are good and better than what a lot of these other things. I mean, microdosing psilocybin, the studies are incredible. Then you can do something like the Stamets stack, where you can microdose psilocybin with lion's mane with a niacin, flushing niacin, and you're regrowing your neural pathways and networks, and also getting that junk out of your mind and helping you to recalibrate, because you've been traumatized your whole life. We've all been traumatized our whole life. Trauma is a spectrum. It's not like, oh, you saw men die in combat. Yes, that's PTSD trauma, like bam. But maybe you had an abusive boyfriend or girlfriend. Maybe you had abusive parents. Maybe they weren't even physically abusive. They were psychologically abusive. Mm-hmm. Maybe you were in a school where your teacher didn't believe in you. Maybe whatever. There's trauma is a lot of different traumas. And we've all been traumatized from the beginning. And our ego's really good at surviving all that trauma. But it doesn't mean it doesn't build up in our neuroplasticity. Mm-hmm. And doesn't mean that also you don't have a responsibility to go clean that shit up. Right. Because you do. Nobody else, none of your traumatizers are responsible for your healing. None of them are, right? And this is one of the biggest things that you have to come to. If you really want to take your life back and have agency, really, that means you have to take responsibility for your fucking life. And that means you can't be a victim anymore. Anymore. My mom was a madly abusive woman, as was my stepfather. But I've done enough therapy to recognize they were doing their best. They were literally doing their best. So anyway, if you want, those are my actionable items. Really learn how to love yourself. And that means delving into all the ways that you need to do that. You can do that physically, mentally, emotionally, and you will thank yourself for it. And then you will be a far more effective operator in this world an operator of light.
I love that.
Yeah.
And it's like shedding all of the non-truths.
Yeah.
Because it's not true that you're not loved.
That's right.
So it's like, it's the letting go. It's not going to find it. It's letting go of the shit that's in the way for you to see it, feel it, and experience it.
Yeah. And they are lies. And that's how the darkness works. It works in lies. It works in lies. Yeah.
Well, dude, I think part one, we got a lot.
We'll come back for a part two.
We got a lot more to dig,
talk about.
but I'm stoked. I'm really happy to hear about your utopian creation, because I think on the same level I've been working on that myself, and it's things like that where I think if anyone's listening, I think one of the gifts is when you realize that you can allow yourself to dream first. Yeah. And go, what do I want my life to be, right? And then, like you said, you've gained and garnered so much of your energy back now that you naturally, and I think it happens when you naturally want to give. What else? What kind of legacy can we now create? What kind of vision can I now see that I'm not trapped in my own myopic pain and shame and sadness and fear? So when you heal yourself, there's so many benefits to not only yourself, but then you want to give, right?
Yeah.
And that's the beautiful thing, because I know you've gone through your own health, mental health spaces and stuff, so you're not talking flippantly.
Oh, no. Yeah. I mean, just for the context of anybody out there, my book, Radical Love, you can buy it in audio form or otherwise. I do my own audio, so I think people.
You do.
Well, I mean, as an actor, and also as somebody who's done a lot of voiceover and stuff, it was much more in my wheelhouse, and it was really. Fun's not the word, but it was very rewarding, and it's very cathartic writing your own, at least even part of your own story of all that stuff. But the long and the short of it is, 7 years ago, I had a complete mental breakdown, didn't want to live, didn't know why, was blessed enough to be able to afford to go to this really intensive, life-changing, life-saving therapy, and learned so much from that. And then, but also became a even somewhat slightly stronger version of myself in that, but, and have continued in the last 7 years. But my only mission, or part of what is my main mission in life, is to make sure that everyone in this world gets the healing that they need. Because there's all these things we can go fight for. But if you go follow every one of the issues that we have in front of us, if you just actually go follow those upstream, you find a broken heart or a broken mind. That's what you find. All the greed and lust and pride and hate and fear and all of it is somebody's broken heart or broken mind. And so I was like, oh wow, not only is my journey in my own mental health madly important, but it is the most important thing for any and all of us to go down, because if all these leaders in the world, if they all actually did the work and really therapized and were connected to the earth and all of creation and the way that things like psilocybin really help you feel, would they be going and pulling toward the darkness and wanting to strip mine everything for all of its worth? Fuck no, they wouldn't. Right. I don't think so. I think we'd get past it. So anyway, but we'll talk more about that in part two.
I love it. Yeah. I love you, brother, and thank you for all the work that you're doing.
Thank you.
Super awesome, and people got to check out your book. So
yes, and you can follow me at Zachary Levi on any of the very toxic social medias.
And very toxic. So, and what are the projects? You got some in the can. You've got some production happening. What's happening?
Yeah. Well, I've got a couple of movies in the can. One of them is called Harold and the Purple Crayon, that comes out beginning of August. Very silly for little kids type of a movie. That's a whole other story. But that comes out August 2nd. And it does have a good amount of heart, very safe for kids to watch, PG, based on the children's book Harold and the Purple Crayon. And then I did a movie called Not Without Hope, which is this true story, very gnarly true story about these four guys who went fishing off the coast of Florida in 2009. They flipped their boat, capsized it, a storm rolled through, and 3 of the 4 of them died of hypothermia. Only 1 survived, and it's that story. And I played the guy who survived, and it was a really gnarly thing to shoot. Yeah, it was gnarly. But that, I don't know when that comes out, but and then there's another film that comes out next February called Unbreakable Boy, which I'm very, very, very proud of. And it's essentially about a young, also a true story about a young couple who end up having a couple of sons. Their oldest ends up having osteogenesis imperfecta, which is brittle bones disease, but also ends up having autism. And it's one of the first movies I've ever seen, let alone been a part of, that really like highlights autism in a way that I think is true and also like beautiful, and the relationship between a father and his son and all of those types of things. And I don't know, it's a really beautiful little film we made. And then I have a handful of other things in development, and a movie called Sarah's Oil that I'm about to go to Tulsa, Oklahoma and shoot. And just the brief synopsis on that. Another true story. Young black girl, Sarah Rector, she's like 10 years old or 11 years old in Tulsa, Oklahoma in 1914. Not a very hospitable place to be a young black girl in the world at that point, certainly, in the South. And she and her family were previously slaves of the Muskogee tribe, because the Native Americans all had slaves as well. And once the U.S. outlawed slavery, then the Native Americans outlawed slavery, and they made all their slaves freedmen, tribal members. Then the U.S. gave back a bunch of land to the tribes, and in Oklahoma, those tribes divvied out land to their tribal members, and young Sarah Rector got 160 acres of her own because she was older than 10 years old. This young, deeply spiritual, precocious, intelligent, blessed enough to go to this very unique school where indigenous and colored children got to go and learn. She could read and write, and she was looking at the newspaper, and she saw the headlines that the oil boom was coming across the country and coming through Oklahoma. And she went to her land, and she prayed over her land and listened, and she believed that she could hear oceans of oil under it. And so she went and hired some wildcatters, some independent oil men to come, and that's who I'm playing, one of those guys, to go and help her get the oil out of her land that nobody knows for sure is in there, except for like a few clues here and there that they find along the way. But it's still like, is it there? You don't know till you actually hit oil, and then is it pure? So they, in the process of going and doing that, also, by the way, this guy's, and other people helping her to fight off all of these killers of the flower moon motherfuckers who are trying to kill her and her family and steal her land. Sure enough, she hits oil. It's the largest, purest oil reserve in North America at the time. She personally leases her lot to Rockefeller himself and becomes the richest woman in America as an 11-year-old black girl in Tulsa, Oklahoma. And nobody knows the story.
11.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah. So I've been trying to manifest this movie into existence for the last 3 years.
Dude, that's amazing.
And finally, me and my producing partners, we were able to get it to the right channels. They got it to Amazon, and Amazon was like, "We'll produce that movie. We believe in that movie." So we're about to go shoot that. Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Oh,
and so that'll probably come out next Christmas or something like that. And there's other things, but to me, like, all those things are wonderful. Like I said, I love being an actor. It's great. But the thing that drives me the most is going and creating community so that as many people as possible can not just survive, but actually thrive, actually live the lives we're created to live. And we can do it. Our governments could do it. They just don't do it because it's not in their best interest.
Totally.
They love taking our tax money and saying like, yeah, we're going to do so much good with it.
Yeah.
And then they take it all and they go, well, but if we fix the problem, we don't get more tax money. So just keep that going. Oh, I know it's crazy. We just can't get to it. More money, please.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Not only can we
will.
We will, for sure.
We fucking will.
Yeah,
Yes.
brother.
Yes, we will. Yes, we will.
100%.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.